Take two. Apologies for anybody that started to watch that live. For some reason, the video was not showing up. The audio did, but not the video. So I'm just doing this not live. I know all the algorithms like live, but whatever. Okay, so I shot a number of videos on this. This is a 1955 Chevy Bel Air resto rod. It's really a nice build. It has a fresh custom House of Kolor paint job. It's a black metallic with metallic blue, almost kind of like that Honda Nighthawk Pearl. Now, I made a whole series of videos showing how I machine dry sanded the roof, compounded with the wool pad, polished with the foam pad and an orbital, and then put a ceramic coating on it. There is a playlist on the Mike Phillips 3D YouTube channel, so look under the playlist and you'll find, I think there's 8 or 9 videos there. And I go into a lot of detail about a lot of different topics. If you're new to this type of stuff and you want to learn, I encourage you to go watch it all. If you kind of already know everything, you're a Facebook expert, then don't even bother. So I started sanding this down, and to tell you the truth, I just thought, I need to get this done. They want to come pick it up. I'm taking off for Mobile Tech Expo. But I thought, nah, this is going to be a really good demo. So I thought, you know what? I'm just going to grin and bear it and show you everything. Okay, so I'd already started sanding this panel and that half. I did save this side and this. And I'm going to go through the whole process, except for I'm not going to put the coating on. I'm just going to compound and cut and then polish. So first thing is the 3D dry sanding system. It starts with their 5mm free spinning random orbital brushless electric sander. My friend Tom said you can't have an electric DA in a body shop. The reason why is because there's fumes in a body shop, and a brush style motor emits sparks, which could ignite the gases in the air. This is brushless, so I don't know if it cannot be used in a body shop, but I know we sell a lot of these, so someone's using them. The next thing is the secret to the sanding system is actually 2 components. One is the sanding disc is as thin as a sheet of paper. And this also has anti-clog technology, so you get a lot of life out of the sanding disc itself. But being thin like that is part of the dynamics that enable you to sand and keep all the sanding action on the top of the high points, the orange peel, surface texture, run sags, modeling, dieback, anything you're trying to remove out of the paint job. And for those of you watching this that don't know why you would sand down a car, let me just clear that up real quickly. You don't sand down factory paint. So if you got a car in your driveway or your garage that you bought from a dealership, you don't want to sand that paint down. The paint is thinner, the clear layer is thinner than a Post-it note, okay? So even if you're so good, you could sand it down and never burn through the clear and expose the base coat, you will have left that clear coat so thin that if you live in a place like me in southern Florida with extreme sunshine and lots of rain, water and sunlight both will deteriorate what you leave left of the clear coat, and you'll get premature clear coat failure. So you shouldn't be out there sanding factory paint. So sanding is done on custom paint. And if you think about it, what kind of cars are painted? Okay, I don't see people taking a 2014 Honda 4-door Accord into the custom body shop for a wow, look at this paint job. But cars like this is a 1957 Chevy Bel Air resto mod. So it's a body off, complete build. It's got a LS3 engine in it. And at some point after the thing's assembled and painted, somebody's going to sand it down to get that paint flat and then buff it out. And the reason you sand down custom paint is to get the paint absolutely flat like a piece of glass. And the reason you want it flat is because there's a term called DOI, distinction of image. A mirror is 100% DOI. And so when you look into it, you see your face reflected back perfectly. Well, a fresh custom paint job has a lot of imperfections in the surface. It's not flat. So when you look in your reflection, in the paint job, it gives you a disfigured image. It's warbled, it's marbled, however you want to describe it. So the reason professional detailers in body shops like Dave Kindig's shop, the reason they sand the paint flat, sand it down is to get it flat. And of course, then buff it out to get it glossy again. So when you look into it, the reflections are crystal clear. Images are distinct. And that's called distinction of image, or DOI. So that's why you sand paint. So again, this is a custom paint job. And it don't look good, so I'm trying to fix it for the guy. And anyway, so the secret, back to the secret of the sanding system. So part of it is the thin disc. The other part is the micro hook interface pad. And this is important. It seems like a little thing, but I always tell people the little things are the big things. Okay, so you have a microscopic hook. What that does is it prevents any lateral movement. So when you're sanding, imagine orange peel would be hills and valleys, okay? You want all the sanding action on the very top of the hills until you level the tops with the lowest parts of the valleys. Now the paint is flat. And at that point, you want to stop sanding so you leave the most paint on the car. You just paid a guy to put the paint on the car. You want to get it flat, but you don't want to take off any more than you have to because, well, you just paid a guy to put a bunch of paint on there. So think about it. Okay, so the micro hooks, they keep the sanding disc from going down into the valleys. It just keeps the sanding action on the top. Now, I know a lot of you guys are familiar with a big name that starts with 3, and they make a really nice line of foam-backed sanding discs, and they go anywhere from, I think, 1,000 all the way to 8,000. And the problem with the foam back disc, though, the foam has cushion or give. So as you're sanding, hills and valleys, it goes down into the valleys and over the tops and down into the valleys. You sand everything. It doesn't really level orange peel, at least not as good as something like this design. So there's obvious benefits to it. So anyways, the secret is both the micro hook and, of course, the paper-thin sanding disc. And to put that on there, just kind of eye it up and throw it on there. This is, by the way, the 3D 5mm random orbital brushless sander. And all this stuff you can get at 3dproducts.com. Okay, so that's one component. Here's the other component. This is one of my favorite little tools. I do a lot of sanding. A lot of people don't. I do because I just got people that bring me stuff that needs fixing. This is the Flex Pixie. Now, most of you bought this to do paint correction. It comes with 3 drive units, rotary, 3mm, 12mm. The rotary is for a 1-inch backing plate, and it's for getting into tight areas and doing paint correction, and it works really well for that. I use it for glass sanding too, by the way. The 3mm is also for a 1-inch backing plate, and for these little 1-inch sanding discs you can buy. And that's kind of like if you had a custom paint job and had a little dirt in it, you could come down and reduce your work area, your footprint, so to speak, and just sand right on the top of that and then come buff it out. So there's a use for that. The 12mm is for paint correction. And 12mm means it's making us, is rotating this pad, in a circle. I'm just going to turn this thing on. Okay. And this is 6mm, so you can't really see it. But when you hold a tool in the air, you'll see 2 perimeter circles, the inner one and the outer one. And the distance between them is the distance of the orbit stroke. So with the Flex 12mm, it's a pretty good size orbit stroke. And what that means is when you're sanding, you can't really get close to an edge or a raised body line because you risk sanding over the edge or the raised body line. And then when you come back to buff it out, you risk burning through the base coat, exposing the clear coat. So about a year and a half ago, I sent a letter to Chris Metcalf, and you probably can't see this, but this has the number 6 on it, and I wrote it there with a felt pen, so it's not a factory number. But this is a 6mm drive unit, and I asked them if their engineers could make me a 6, a 7, or an 8. I really didn't care which one. They sent me a 6, so I've been using it ever since then, and it turns the Flex Pixie into an amazing 3-inch sander. And then, of course, 3D, we make our sanding discs in 3-inch and in 6-inch and 1500 and 2500. So I'm going to throw a 2500 on here, and I'll show you how I would use this. And for the life of me, I don't know how body shops can get by without a great 3-inch sander. If you go up on Amazon or just use Google and you look for 3-inch orbital polishers to use it as a sander, everybody's jumped on the long stroke bandwagon. All I can find is like 8mm, 9mm, 12mm. So the tool body's small, but the orbit stroke's big. So thank goodness the Flex engineers made this little 6mm drive unit for all of us that do like to do some sanding, and they should be available this year, 2023. So this has the Flex, or has the 3D interface pad. Here's the 2500 grit. And this has 4 different speeds when you turn this on. There's 1, and then you got a plus and a minus button here so that you can bump it up. And you see the little light bars go up as you go up in speeds. One of the things about this is if you're on the 4 setting and turn it off, it will not come back up to the 4. It'll only go to the 3. That's kind of a built-in safety feature. So if you're doing paint correction, and you turn it on, it goes right to the 4. You don't maybe throw splatter everywhere. So you got to physically always bump it back up to the 4. And when I'm dry sanding, I'm pretty much always using the 4 because it's important to maintain sanding disc rotation for fast and efficient sanding. You can sand on 2 and 3 and 1 if you want to, but you're going to go slower and you're not going to be as efficient. And my personal way of detailing cars is I want to go as fast as I can, keep my quality high so I can go home at some point and go to bed. Okay, so I'm just going to sand this down. Bunch you probably won't be able to see very good. You know, I'm using an iPhone 12. It just is what it is. So, also, before I forget, always have a clean microfiber towel. And as you're sanding, you want to wipe the sanding residue off the paint. And you also want to wipe off the face of the pad for a cleaner, faster, more efficient sanding. So I'm going to turn this on. And look how easy this thing is to use. Okay? And what I like to use the 3-inch for, besides a thin panel like the top of this rear fender here, so you know there's paint on there, so I'm just going to take and bump it against there. Now it's clean. I go back to sanding. But when you're sanding a thin panel like this, it's just convenient because it lets you get in there without buffing on the raised body line, or in this case a radius body line or the edge there. And but it's also super easy to control. It's not that a guy like me can't control the 6-inch. I'm just saying it's easier to control a smaller tool, the smaller pad on there. So I put my hand on here. I can feel where the top of the radius is. And I'm actually tilting this a little bit. And I'm kind of bumping it back and forth like you see. And there's a reason for that. I actually wrote about this in a Rupes book I wrote years and years and years ago. And whenever you're using tools that are free spinning, they will tend to stall out. And at that point, if the pad isn't rotating, and in this case, if the sanding disc isn't rotating, then you're really not doing nothing except for wasting your time. So the goal is to always maintain pad rotation for the most efficient sanding action, or in the case of paint correction, the most efficient when you're compounding and polishing, removing paint defects, or in other words, removing paint. Okay, and I'm going to be teaching this up at Mobile Tech Expo this Thursday. I got 3 classes: glass polishing, extreme boat detailing, and dry sanding. Now, I want to come down here and I want to edge this panel, this trunklet. So here's how I would do that. I'm just going to come down here and I just want to go around the edge. Oh, back to what I was telling you about the Rupes book. One of the things I said in the Rupes book to help you to maintain pad rotation is to keep the tool moving. Just the action of keeping the tool moving helps the pad to stay rotating. And to hold it still, sometimes it just sits there and stalls out. Plus, when you're sanding, you don't want to be taking a whole lot of paint off in one area. So it's not a good idea to hold the sander in one place. Okay, so now when you look at that, I've sanded this one section right here, and I use what I call the rule of thumb, because wherever I go, it's a measuring device. Wherever I go, I take my thumb so I can use it to measure. And I put my thumbnail down to the edge, and I kind of look at where the thumbnail ends into my finger, and it's about a 1/2 inch, and I just want to stay about a 1/2 inch away from all edges and body lines, because here's why. You don't want to put sanding marks where you can't shove your spinning buffer. You know, this. You don't want to put sanding marks where you can't bring this down there, or you're going to burn through the edges. And I know all the experts out there say, well, Mike, won't there be orange peel along the edge? Well, yes, of course there will be. And if you can ever find anybody that will pay you by the hour to come in here and sand right next to the edge and pull the sanding marks out and not make a mistake, go for it. I find in my life, most of the people are happy with this. And when I go to car shows and I start looking at them, I notice no orange peel. But when I get down to the edges, I start to see the orange peel kick in. So it's not just me that does this. It must be the rest of the guys that have been in the body shop and detailing industry since the car was invented. For example, the Model T that was introduced in 1908. Okay, so I'm not the first guy to do this, but I am the first guy probably to explain it or to verbalize it. Okay, so staying about a thumbnail distance away. And I just sand down here. And when I'm sanding on some other guy's straight rod, okay, this ain't my straight rod, you know, I do tend to be more careful. If it was mine, I'd probably go nuts. Oops. Sometimes I forget to bump that up. And now if you're new to this, you know, use both hands. Got more control with both hands. And as I'm sanding, you know, I can, because there's no wet slurry like when you're wet sanding, you can wipe this and you can instantly tell where the orange peel remains, where it's knocked down flat, so you know you can move on to new territory. Now, I'm going to throw another disc on here and kind of go back over that one section there real quick. I forget what the small ones cost. They're, compared to everything else, they're cheap. I know the large box has 50 discs and it sells for about 90 bucks with sales tax no matter where you live. And we compare that to the other brands and I mean, it's like 1/3 the cost. I mean, so you never feel bad about throwing another disc on there. Okay, up to the 4 setting and just gonna come down here, just really just kind of finish this out so all that surface texture and the orange peel that the other guy didn't get out, it is going to be removed. This car is going to leave here Wednesday morning. It's going to go get a tilt front hood on it, and then when they're all done assembling it, it will be back and I will do the final polish ceramic coating, and at that time I'll make a walk around video and show you the final results if anybody's interested. Okay, that looks good. So that's what I mean by edging a panel. Over here, I already sanded down the face of this truck, so this is kind of already edged right there. Now, besides having a 3-inch disc to sand thin panels, and sometimes I cut 2-inch and 1-inch discs and make my own out of the 6-inch disc, but besides that, here's why I like to edge a panel. I'm naturally lazy, and once I sand the paint down flat next to the hard to buff area, the edge. Now I can come back with the big guns here and I can just knock out this big flat area quick, fast, and easy. It's really quick and easy. And I've already done the careful work with the little guy sander. So here's what this would look like. Turn it on. I like to bump the speed up on the plus side at least one time. This is a 1500. So this is going to cut pretty fast. I see some fingerprints in my sanding pattern. Okay, there's paint buildup there, just like there's paint buildup here. So you want to take and wipe that off. If you wipe this off but you don't wipe this off, you're going to put the face of the sanding disc right down, or I'm sorry, if you wipe this off but you don't wipe that off, you'll put this right down on the dust and just load it up instantly. So clean both. When you are sanding, you want to use kind of a brisk arm speed and overlap by at least 50%. And one of the things I covered in when I did the roof there was a term called UMR. If you know that term, it's because I've included it in, I don't know, the last 3 or 4 books I wrote. But UMR stands for Uniform Material Removal. And whenever you're doing this kind of show car work, the goal is to have UMR. You want to remove an equal amount of paint over every square inch of the panel, because that means that the end result you'll have a uniform appearance, okay? I'm not going to go any deeper than that. Some of you can figure out why that's important. If not, read my book. They're all out of print and all the information in them is out of date. You used to be able to get them at the Geek and you might be able to, but I'm just telling you, all that information's out of print. I plan on having some brand new books coming out. Those are the ones you're going to want to buy. So stay tuned for SEMA this year. Okay, now you guys can't see what I see. Looks like a rat rod. Looks like matte paint. Completely flat. There's no more orange peel anywhere. So now I'm going to go ahead and pull this off. And it was still cutting pretty good. That was just half of a panel. And I'm going to switch over to the 2500. Okay, so now I'm going to refine 15 to 2500 just to make it easy to buff out. And this kind of goes back to I'm lazy. I could pull out 15. I think I got the skills, the pads, and the chemicals to do it. I just don't want to. Okay, so now. And this is actually what takes some skill and some experience. You want to remove all the 1500 grit sanding marks and you want to replace them with 2500. And if you do it correctly, what that means is these sanding marks will buff out very fast, very uniform over the entire panel. And this will save you a lot of time. Now, if you don't refine them perfectly, what's going to happen is when you start compounding, is you're going to wipe off your compound residue, and you're going to see some places there's no sanding marks, but other places there's sanding marks. So then you're going to go and compound again, and you're going to do this back and forth over and over again. And you know, sooner or later you get it done. I'm just telling you up front, the better you can get at efficiently refining your sanding marks from 1500, and I mean not only here where it's easy to sand, but up here where it's more difficult to sand, it's all going to buff out a lot easier. And by the way, as I was buffing out the sides of this, compounding it from the other guy's sanding job, he obviously doesn't know about the rule of thumb, because there's sanding marks right up to the edges, on the edges. And every time I find one of those, I got a little microfiber pad and I put some compound on it, and I pull all that stuff out by hand. As I like to tell people, people say, what kind of tool do you use for that? And I go, well, God gave me a pretty good tool. It's called my thumb. I just go in there and push hard and rub fast, and everything comes out. It's important to have both good hand techniques and machine techniques. Okay, I'm done with this. Okay, so now at this point here, I'm going to set this down here. I said I was going to go ahead and shoot this whole process, and then I'm going to turn the video off, and I'm going to get back to work on this so I can kick this thing out the door. Here's the pad I was using on the roof, and then the sides, and you know, always clean your pads. Always clean your pads. Keep them clean. Don't be a caveman and use a screwdriver. Break down, spend $10 and buy a real spur. Okay, and then you could tackle this any way you want to. I'll go ahead and work the back first, and I'll come up here. Flex PE 14 corded rotary, little sales pitch. You know, there's tools out there like this that are cheaper. You always get what you pay for. Besides the precision ground stainless, precision machined stainless steel gears that make it quiet so you can talk over it and hear the radio, the battery technology is made by the company that makes Ego tools. So the Ego leaf blower, which I own, which I blow everything off. A lot of guys have the Ego lawnmower, the hedge trimmers. But the battery technology is called smart battery technology, and it's probably at least twice as good as anything else on the market. So here's what all the experts do. They go buy that cheap cordless tool, and all the money they saved buying the cheap tool, they buy more batteries. Give yourself a present. If you're like me and you work hard, just spend some money. Buy yourself a nice tool once in a while. Okay, so I'm going to pick this up using the 10 at 10 technique. And I'm just going to spread it around. And this is probably my favorite tool. Now I'm just going to come down here and notice how I hold this thing. I'm just going to run this along that radius curve there. It's kind of a concave curve. And this is the 3D 510 compound, which is a very fast cutting compound. I'm going to bump that up to 3. Okay, finger painting. I'm going to come over here and get this edge. And I'm pushing down right now. I want to get this over with. I want to go home. I've been here all day. I like being here, but I want to eat dinner too. And this kind of goes back, if you look, it might look to you like I'm running the buffer on the edge, but that's just the loose fibers where there's no backing material. They're just kind of dancing against there. They're not really hitting it. Finger painting. So if you're going to Mobile Tech, my first class is glass polishing, and I think that's at 1 p.m. My second class is dry sanding. That's what I'm showing you here. And then my third class is extreme boat detailing. And I'm taking up a windshield, a demo hood, and a big chunk of a boat that me and my son-in-law cut up in his front yard. Neighbors hated us. But we got a whole bunch of chunks, and I'm just going to show you what I teach in all my big 3-day classes. So if for all kinds of reasons you can never get to one of my really fun 3-day classes, then you can kind of get a snapshot of what we're going to cover there in those 3 classes. I cover all those topics in my classes and so many more. If you've ever went up to the 3D forum, which is 3ddetailtalk.com, I listed a description of the classes, and it's probably 10,000 words. You know, you don't have to read it, but if you want to know what you get for your money, it's right there. We cover everything I list. Okay, so that's all. Sandmarks are gone. By the way, this is kind of relative how you pick up your bead once you kind of figure it out. But anyway, the first thing I want to do is I'm going to grab that bead of product or strip of product. I'm going to hold my pad flat like all the experts say to do. But that's just to kind of get that product spread out. Now I'm going to go up on edge and just kind of massage those scratches out. And when you see me doing this, what I'm doing is I'm buffing up to the edge and then coming back, and then I'm looking to see if the scratches are gone. If they are, then I move on. But that's what that back and forth is all about. I'm inspecting and buffing at the same time. Okay, while I'm buffing out this, I'm going to beat a dead horse. When I go up on edge like this, sometimes people say, "Gee, Mike, that's bad technique. You don't know what you're doing." I should have brought my rotary buffer out here from 1988, which no longer works. I buffed out so many cars that wore the gears completely out. But here's the deal. You should hold the pad flat if you're using a crappy compound, because if you go up on edge, you're going to be pushing the abrasive particles deeper into the paint because you're using a much smaller part of the pad. But I never use crappy compounds. You know, 3D makes their own abrasive technology, and it's the bomb, man. It's so good. I love using the 510 because it's the fastest cutting out of the I think the total of 4 compounds we have, and it just makes quick work of any long, arduous process. Okay, so now I'm going to come across here and just sometimes you'll see me put some product someplace. I don't plan on using it. I plan on drawing from it. Okay, so I'm just going to take and spread it out there. Never waste product. Put it on your pad. Now I'm going to come in here. I'm just going to, like a surgeon, okay, one more pass to kind of clean it up, then I'll wipe off and inspect. Looks good. I've got this product here. I'm going to pick it up, drag it right over here. Making this flex rotary polisher whine a little bit. Make it earn its keep here. Done. Okay, so all those sanding marks. I'll wipe off. Check. This is 3D wipe. It just helps to wipe everything off, and it kind of goes back to I'm lazy. Okay. Some people confuse laziness with being OCD. I am not OCD. I am not Paul Dalton. Love you to death, Paul. I remember when Paul first made a big splash on the American scene, he had this video out called 52 Ways to Valet a Car. And I think somehow it got transcribed in English slang as 52 ways to wash a car. And, everybody's going, oh my gosh, just wash the car. How can it take 52 different steps, But across the pond in the UK, the word valet, it means more than just washing. Okay. All the sanding marks are gone. They kind of kick back in right here. I still got to do this bottom side, so I don't really care. I'll get them then. But the next thing I would do is I would grab my favorite paint correction tool, which is the Beast. This is the Flex 3401. This is the original. You can tell by the sand cast aluminum head. This is a 3D spider cut foam polishing pad. These things, if you feel them, they got a pretty good sharpness to them. And then I'm going to grab the 3D 520 finishing polish. And there's what 3 pea-sized drops look like. I see people talking about 3 pea-sized drops. You need some product on the surface. Product is not product. Product is abrasives and lubricity, okay? Now I want to show you a real quick technique. So I always see people do this. They call it smushing. But what I see guys do next is they take their polisher and they just run the edge into that pile. That's wrong. So what they do is it looks like this. That'll work, but instead, with one part of the pad still in contact with the paint, lift it up, run it over that patch, pull that product under the pad, not on the edge. Trap it underneath the pad where you want it so you can polish the paint. Okay, so now I've spread my product out, and here's what that means. I now have a uniform layer of abrasives and lubrication. So I got everything I need to start polishing. Now, one of the things I like about a gear-driven tool, unlike a free-spinning tool, is I can push on this. And sometimes I want to because I want to go fast. When you push on it, here's what it does. It causes the abrasives to take little bites out of the paint. Think of an ice cream scooper. Scoop, 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 scoop. It scoops the paint. You're trying to level it. You're trying to refine the results from the rotary and flatten it out and restore maximum gloss and clarity, make it look beauty. We do all this to create beauty. And with free spinning tools, you're supposed to use the weight of the tools. That means you can't push them hard because the pad stall out. So that's why that's one of the reasons I don't like them. But with the Beast, like it's named, you can push on it and get in there and get the paint correction, get the polishing step done. And of course, as you finish out your passes, bring the weight up. Polishing paint is an art form, not a grinding process. So bear with me while I knock this out real quick. And another cool thing about this tool is you can go up on edge like that and maintain pad rotation. That means you can take a 6.5 inch pad and turn it into a 1 inch pad. There's not even a need to put the tool down and go get another tool, the smaller pad, because you can make this do what you want it to do. As I like to tell people, if you spend enough time behind the tool, you can make it dance on paint. Okay, this side. A lot of times, Actually, all the time. I teach in my classes and I practice myself to count your section passes out loud. That's because your mind tends to drift and you forget where you're at. So like most guys, if you forget where you're at, you figure, well, I know it's around 5 or 6. I'll do 3 or 4 more extra ones to make sure I did enough. And I said, count them out. So that was 2. 3. 4. 5. 6. 7. 8. That's 8 solid section passes. It's just a good number, a good rule of thumb. Like 1 or 2 is too few, 20 is probably too many. So I always kind of hang in there around the 8. But now I'm going to bring my pressure up. 2 more passes, just light pressure to maximize gloss and clarity. 1. There's 2. People say this thing pulls you all over the place. What are they talking about? Okay, I still got this section in here to do. Now this is a concave. And what you can do, when you got a concave, if you hold this thing flat, you know, like there's a center section here that's getting no action. So what you can do is tilt it. Now you've reduced the footprint down to about 3 or 4 inches, and this section of the pad right here is going to go into that concave and do all your paint correction for you. Again, no reason to go get a smaller tool, the smaller pad. Learn how to take this tool and make it do what you want it to do. It will do it. You just got to spend the time behind the tool. Beautiful. Okay, clean towel. A couple clean towels. Always inspect your towels. Look at them with your eyes. Fill them with your hands. A lot of times you can have embedded particulates that your eyes cannot see, but your hands can feel. And let me show you something I do also. You know, I've spent my whole life teaching people how to remove swirls. What's more important is to learn how not to put them in the first place. So as you're working out in the garage, have a clean place. This bucket is clean to put your dirty towels. So they may be dirty with compound, but they're not going to get any more dirty because there's nothing in here to get on them. From here to the washer, from the washer to the dryer. Find a clean place. Clean it off. You clean the table off. Make sure it's not contaminated. And then fold your towels and put them away. Oh, that looks so good. The guy that owns this came by and looked at it today. He was so happy. It looked so bad. You know, it's kind of okay to have people out there doing hack work. It provides us with plenty of cleanup work to do. So I know my friend, I think it was Joe Fernandez, he always said he loved hack detailers. It made him a lot of money fixing all their work. Okay. Now, this thing, after I finish out the rest of these body panels, I coated the roof, but I came up with a change of plan because I know when they put the custom forward tilting hood on the front of this, I mean, think about it, they're going to at some point lean. They're going to lean on it. There's also some fabrication still left to do on the engine, and so the sides of the fenders are going to get, you know, some marring. Marring's that kind, fluffy word for scratches. So I'm going to do all the compounding and polishing, and bear with me for 1 second. Then this thing's going to go home, and when it's all done, it'll come back, and I'll probably shoot another video then. But until then, I want to make this surface slippery. This is 3D Bead It Up. Beat It Up. It's a polymer coating. It's not a spray detailer. It's not a spray wax. It's a real coating. And once you got your paint like this, you really just need a light mist, and that's why I like to pour it off into a 32-ounce bottle and get this. It's a chemical resistant spray head, but that's not why I use it. I use it because see how well it atomizes? Okay, so you only need a light mist. And then take a clean towel and take and spread it around. And the magic happens when you turn the towel over. You feel that surface just go slippery. And I think this takes 24 hours to fully cure too. Okay, so I've spread it around, turn my towel over, boom. I show this to everybody in my class. I show this to everybody that cares, my neighbors, my friends, my wife, my girlfriend. My wife doesn't know about my girlfriend. And then all my customers. I detail a lot of cool cars professionally. It's always kind of been in my blood. I don't need to, but when I meet people and they got something cool like this that's all jacked up, there's a sense of reward and satisfaction that comes from fixing it. And putting a little coinage in your pocket doesn't hurt either. Done. But that's how this car is going to go back. This part's coated. The rest is going to have beat it up. When they get it all finished, the windows are in, the interior's in, it'll come back. I'll do a light finish polish, whatever it takes to get the job done, and then I'll put the 3D graphene infused ceramic coating on them. Anyway, if you watch this and you liked it, hit the like button, share it. I wrote an article last year called "Your Profit or Squat." And here's what that says. A lot of people over the years have been watching me teach people how to do stuff with articles, videos, TV shows, in classes, free seminars. And I always tell people, if I've provided you with information that's going to help you, save you time, make you buy the right thing versus the wrong thing, so again, you don't waste time and waste money, help you get the job done faster but keep your quality high, in any way, that's your profit. My help is your profit from me. That's what it's called, your profit. When you reciprocate and buy from some touch point that I represent, in this case, 3dproducts.com, that's my profit. So it's a win-win. You would never go to a restaurant, order a nice meal, and have the waitress or the waiter come over, just really take care of you, and then say, hey, thanks. Get in your car, leave. Go down the road to another restaurant, and then give some stranger the tip. Okay, so that's what you do when you learn things from somebody, but then go buy cheap somewhere else. You got your profit, but the guy that helped you or the girl that helped you, they didn't get your profit. So you guys can all do what you want to do. I wrote this article. You can probably Google it and it'll come up. Your profit, our squat. Because what we get is squat. We get nothing. But yeah, think about it. And if I've helped you over the years, do me a favor and make your purchases where you got your help. Don't give someone else my profit. And you'll find that up on the forum, 3ddetailtalk.com. Again, I'll be at Mobile Tech Expo this Thursday. I'm teaching glass polishing, taking scratches out of glass. I'm teaching extreme boat detailing. I'm bringing in a boat that I think is 36 years old. It's turned white with oxidation. I'm going to show you the process I use in my class. And I wrote about it in my first boat detailing book, which I see everybody on the world using the process I shared in the book now. And it's just like, oh, it just came to me. But there's always the original source, And then I'll be teaching this dry sanding class up there also. If you come by the classes and if you don't hang out for the class, stop in and say hi. I always like meeting my friends. Hope to see you at a future class. My next class, by the way, is coming up February 17th, 18th, and 19th. I got bitchin' cars and cool boats, and they're all hands-on. There's no chairs, there's no PowerPoint. It's just work, 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 work. If you want a comfy chair and you want to sit down, eat a bunch of good food, take someone else's class. Don't come to mine. Thank you.